Hey guys, we're on the Blue Collar Future Podcast. I'm your host, Jaden Robinson, and we have Dick Frost with us here today. Dick, how's
What's
it
going
going?
on? How are you, man?
Good, you?
Oh man, super excited to be here,
Yeah,
I love going on other people's podcasts,
yeah,
it's a lot of fun. It's a good way to kill some time and chat. And there's not too many blue collar podcasts out there, and
yep.
like I got mine. I know the Forgotten Working Class. I don't know if you've heard of that one yet. And
Heard of him, but
yeah,
don't know
he's
much
good.
about him.
He's good people, man. And I don't know, man. I like listening to podcasts and so I also like being on them, and I have my own. I like to talk. So
Yep. Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, we'll go into that. What do you do other than podcasting?
so I work in the oil and gas industry, the Canadian oil and gas industry. I've been, I went into that with a like 5 year plan 13 years ago, right? And here we are, just motoring away. That's usually the go-to for most people. They get in, they want to make a little bit of money, and they're like, I swear I'm gonna get out. I just gotta make a little bit and set it aside and go. Well, you set your goals, you exceed those goals, and you set new ones, and then the toys come along, the houses, and maybe a couple divorces, and you know your addiction to energy drinks and gas station sandwiches. And then, next thing you know, you look up and you're 20 years deep, right? So
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
that is one point that we could always talk about is, I think the stigma that blue collar guys don't make a ton of money because, of what they have or what they look like or whatever is only because of the lifestyle that is led. Because a lot of times these people are spending all of their money on toys, and I fall into that category as well, growing up having motorcycles, snowmobiles, all that type of stuff.
Yeah.
But also a whole strand of people that are addicted to cigarettes and alcohol and like a lot of money into that stuff and end up having kids out of wedlock, so paying child support, divorces, alimony, all that stuff. The amount of people I know in the construction industry that are just doling out all their money to that stuff is insane. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yep. I know a lot like that too. And I work in the oil and gas industry. I work away from my family for, you know,
Yeah.
X
Yeah.
amount of weeks at a time. Right now,
Yeah.
I'm at a new job recently, so I'm only doing it for 3 weeks at a time, and I'm going for 7 days. And then, before I was in for like 6, 7, 8 weeks at a time and going
That's
home for
hard.
a week. And then, at the beginning of the pandemic, it was 6 months at a time, and I spent 20 days at home in 2 years, right? And that was hard. I've been with my wife for 20 years, right? And
Yeah.
so working away from my family, making that kind of money, right? I sacrificed so much time away from my family, my kids. I missed a lot of firsts when they were coming up. And well, they're still coming up, but I missed a lot of firsts. And I missed birthdays and shit like that. I don't know, are we allowed to swear on here?
Yeah.
All right. So I missed a lot of shit like that, right? So it's the money has to mean something. Like being away has to mean something. So I don't spend it all on toys. I don't blow it all. I don't smoke. I don't drink. I recently got it into twisted teas, right? So that's and I recently in the last 6 months got into energy drinks. I'm
Yeah.
trying different ones. And in Canada, we're capped at 180 milligrams of caffeine. So,
Oh,
there's, you know, one a day is fine. Like it's not gonna hurt you. 400 milligrams of caffeine a day apparently is like the recommended dose. You get more than that in like 4 or 5 coffees, right? So,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I mean, I feel like I'm almost always at that number. So, I
yeah,
mean,
and
between
yeah,
between a morning coffee and an energy drink, and then I mean, even soda, even just a Coke has one if I happen to have one that day, which I try to not drink very many sodas, but yeah, I mean, it just happens, and I think you can get carried away pretty easily with the caffeine on that
oh yeah,
side.
the white monsters, the ultra, whatever it's
Yeah,
called.
yeah, yeah,
137 milligrams, dude. There's less caffeine in that than there are in like I found my go-to is the rainbow sherbet flavor.
yeah,
180 milligrams, right? I
yeah,
was like, for sure, this monster has more or a lot in it anyway. I look on the back,
yeah.
107 milligrams, dude. I'm like, this is
Wow.
just enough to like keep me going for the whole day, Like I'm
Yeah.
not like, wired. I'm not like wow, my heart beating out of my chest, and um, yeah, dude. So it's interesting getting into those because I've been raw dogging the blue collar lifestyle for
Yeah.
20 years of my life, not smoking, not drinking, not doing
Yeah.
any of that stuff, not doing any of the extracurriculars. And recently just getting into Monster and like finding that next level of like, oh my God, dude, I'm getting tired. And like now chug one of those back and just fucking head for the hills, just
That's
like we're going jogging. Everybody, we're going to the school. Hank the Tank.
yeah, oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
Hank the Tank, man. We're going to the quad. We're going to the quad.
I'm glad you have that experience. I hear a lot of people with that, but I feel like I've almost never had that experience with caffeine. It doesn't even affect me. I feel like I can chug a Red Bull. Well, not that I feel like I can. I have. I've chugged Red Bulls and gone to bed. So it
Yeah.
just doesn't do the same for me, but it does help with the focus. So
Yeah.
the focus aspect. So
This is
I
just
yeah.
talking about that actually gave me an idea for a video. So
Oh, really? And
yeah.
that's another thing. You're a content creator. How is
Yeah.
how's that been going for you?
Man, I'm 5 years into content creation now. Right.
Yeah.
5 years in, man. Started on TikTok. My wife and my sister and a bunch of people during the pandemic were sending me videos on this TikTok platform. I'm like, what the hell is TikTok? I don't have time for this. They were texting me the links. I'm like, I'm not gonna watch them. After a little while of this, I opened up a TikTok account. I'm like, here, send them there, and I'll ignore them. Right.
Yeah.
One day I'm sitting on site and I got bored and I opened one. I'm like, that's pretty funny.
Yeah.
It's funny. And I'm like, you know what? I don't see a lot of oil field content. So,
Uh-huh.
all right, you know what? I'm gonna do a video. So I do a video. It gets like 60,000 views in a day, and I'm like, "Fuck, man, that's cool, right? Fuck yeah!" And so I just kind of went from there. The next video tanked. The next video did okay. The ups and downs of
Uh-huh.
the chasing the views and the likes, right? And then finally I found in the algorithm what works and what doesn't, right? So it originally started really because mental health, right? I was struggling and I wasn't finding anything that made me laugh. So I saw that video, it made me laugh, and then I couldn't find anything more that brought me the joy that video did. So I started creating them. I
Mm.
started creating what I wanted to see, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, so I kind of got into that, but I wouldn't be here today without Uncle Hack, who is an oil field content creator in Alberta, and he started off on YouTube, right? And it's kind of crazy. I looked up to that guy for so long, and his content. When I started growing and getting bigger, him and I are buddies now, right?
Mhm.
We talk. I have his number. We call each other. I watch his videos. He's been on my podcast. I'm going on his. Like
Yeah.
I love that guy and super swell dude. So
Yeah. I
yeah.
saw you are around 105 episodes on yours. Is
Oh,
that-
I think 109 drops this coming Tuesday. 109. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, man.
109. I,
109,
I
one a
bet
week.
100. I bet 100 was cool to get to.
Oh, so yes, it was so cool to get to. The thing with that was, I for the 50 weeks leading up to that, because when I got to 50, I started counting down, in my mind and talking about
Yeah.
it. Trying to get Mike Rowe on for episode 100 was a
Yeah.
grind. It didn't happen, but we grinded to 100. And as I got closer, I was in my mind about it. Who do I get on for episode 100? Right? It's a special episode. So I got my good buddy Gord Kitely on, who has a podcast, a Second Act podcast, amazing podcast. His recent episode actually was 48 minutes of pure brilliance, and it changed my whole mindset on things. It was crazy. So I had Gord on, and we just reviewed the last 100 weeks, and talked about what I had learned and how I felt about it. And at the end of it, episode 100 came and went like any other episode. And then a couple days later, I found myself preparing for 101, 102, 103, right? So 100 was just another episode, right? And I was in my mind about it, right? And now we're gearing up for 150s next, right? Just another episode though. So
Yeah.
uh, but it was still pretty cool to get to. I can't invalidate the feeling of getting to 100 and being like, oof, because and I know how many episodes are you in now?
This will be 97. So
97. You're there. You're
yeah,
there pretty much too, right? So
much.
you know, and I know the stats on podcasts and how most don't make it to what episode 15,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, it's like I remember somebody sent me a stat on it. It was like if you make it past like it was something crazy like episode 50 or like in the top 0.01% of something or
Yeah,
something. Yes, like
yeah.
nobody makes it that far. So
So I think it was like 3 million podcasts started last year, right? So 3 million podcasts started last year, and only 200,000 of them are still around, right? So, congratulations, you made it to the top 2% or whatever it is.
yeah, yeah,
That's crazy. That's crazy, man. Like to think that, um, when at the start, when you start looking, right, you're like, oh man, only 10 downloads, 10 people listen to my podcast, right? And
yeah,
now it's like, wow, I don't know what you average per episode, but like even if it's 100, it's like in the first couple days, it's like, wow, 100 people. And what Gord put to me on an episode of my podcast with me, I think it was episode 6 or 7, we did a live stream of it,
yeah,
and there was only 5 people watching, right? And I'm like, man, sorry, only 5 people are watching, dude. Like that's whatever. And he's like, man, are you kidding me? That's great, because like the number 5 looks small, but if 5 people were sitting in the room with us right now while we're recording, watching us, we'd be overwhelmed,
yeah.
right?
It's
And the
true.
internet's done that to us, right? Because you look at a video, oh, that's got 1 million views on it. Well, you can't look at 1 million views, the number, and be like, you just don't know how much that is, right? How many people
Yeah.
that actually is, and it's a lot.
Yeah, no, it's social media has gotten people chasing this crazy amount of views. Like if you're not making videos that get 1 million views, you're not doing anything. But realistically, you could never touch and interact with 1 million people. You
Never.
just couldn't. You just couldn't. So even if you have, say, 500,000 followers and you're getting that amount regularly on your videos, you could never touch and interact with all of those people. That's you get to that amount of people, and I mean, it doesn't even you can't even compute it in your brain. Like that's a city. You're
Yeah.
basically the mayor of a city. You're the leader of this city that's
Yeah.
following you. And but we people are chasing this as if it's like what you have to do, what you absolutely need to do to be able to change, somebody's life or to impact people.
Here's what's crazy. Um, I have a video with almost 15 million views on Instagram. If you think about it this way, that's just under half of the country of Canada's population.
That's crazy.
That's crazy, man, right? Like that's a whole that's like the state of California,
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
something like that. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. That's a crazy amount. Yeah. And again, like you could never, without social media, hope to even come close to touching that many people. And yet somehow that's like if you're not getting to that number, you must be failing or something. Like that's people's mind because they see so many videos out there with so many views on them. And it's just chasing the views instead of trying to chase the interactions with people or at least trying to impact at least one person's life.
Yeah, absolutely, man. That's pretty wild when you stop to think about it. It's also why, that moment I had with him about 5 people. It's also why I stopped chasing views and likes, right? I just
Yeah.
post what feels right, right?
Hmm.
This makes me laugh and get a chuckle out of it. I throw it up, right? I don't care if it gets 700 views. I don't care if it gets 1 million views. You know what I mean? Like all it takes is one person to see it, the right
Yep.
person to see it, and
Yep.
you're off to the races, right? Like,
Yep.
and that's what I like about Troll. Tron said it the other day himself, right?
Uh-huh.
He don't care about your follower count. If you're a blue collar worker and you do good work and you hustle and you put yourself out there, he wants you, right? He doesn't look at. I work with another company who they only see your follower count, right? And like me, I'm in there. I push the stuff and I wear it way more. And this other guy, he doesn't do as much, but he's got like 6 million followers.
Hmm.
They sent that guy a Christmas present. I didn't get a Christmas present.
Well. Yeah, I mean that's just the idea. Like like social media has just turned into this dick measuring contest
Yeah.
almost with how many followers you have. And I know a lot of accounts with a ton of followers that barely get any interactions on them, and then there's accounts that have very few followers in retrospect, like 10,000, 20,000 that get a lot of interactions on all of their posts. So I just don't think that it matters that much at the end
No.
of the day. And I mean, for example, the first time I got a video that hit 1 million views, it was like I had been chasing that. And then I was like, huh, well, that was cool. But now I'm left with basically nothing happened. I think the next video that hit 1 million got a ton of followers and a ton of comments and all that type of stuff. But like from there on out, it was like, okay, I'd have a video hit 1 million, nothing really happens. There might
Yeah.
be some comments, there might be some likes, no followers. And then you'll have one that gets 200,000 views, and then you'll have 50 followers from it or something. And it's like, at the end of the day, I mean, if you're at least touching one person, getting at least one interaction, that's a success right there
Absolutely,
in
man.
my mind.
Absolutely. I I recently had a video go viral on Facebook, and everybody wants to go viral until they do, right? Like going
Yeah.
viral is not everything. Like, are
No,
you ready for it? Because your phone's gonna blow up with notifications. You're gonna
that's so
get
annoying.
if you do have a lot of interaction, you're gonna get a lot of negative comments. You're gonna
Oh
get a lot of
yeah.
hate, no
Yeah.
matter what. It could be curing cancer. You're gonna get hate,
Yeah.
right? I had a video go viral on Facebook, and it was about my mental health. And I was laying in my wife's lap, and she was rubbing my hair, and God bless her, she stood by my side through the last year, right? And well, the last 20 years we've been together, but through the last year I was in the shitter, and I didn't know why. Turns out I haven't been fully diagnosed yet, but I fit all the criteria of it. My dad had it, my grandfather had it. I'm borderline personality disorder. And when you read up on that stuff and the symptoms and how it makes you feel, I feel after reading that, I feel understood. I feel free because, like, for the last year, I've been just in this headspace and where I just wanted to watch the world burn. And I was heavy and I was upset and, lashing out and trying to push her away at every turn that I could. And she's like, no, I'm here. I have to fight you for you every day because no one else will. Right. And so I put that out there and I figured, you know what, that's powerful. So, like, I made that into a video. And so many people were like, this is fake. Why would you record this? I'm like, I have a platform, man. Like, I make a lot of funny videos. It can't be all a highlight reel, right? So, like, I'm putting it out there like, hey, if you guys want to talk, let's talk. I talk about it all the time on my podcast too, mental health, so I did that, and a lot of people, man, the comment section. There's a reason why men don't talk. I'll tell you that much. Like, that comment section was brutal, and it was the men tearing me down, and some of the women.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the oil field life I can't imagine is very conducive to, good mental health, especially because like up there, I'm assuming it gets pretty dang cold and it's fairly dark and cloudy a lot of the time. I
In the
mean,
wintertime, yeah, you might see
yes.
like 4 or 5 hours of daylight this far north during the
Yeah.
winter, right?
So I
So,
mean, they're like seasonal depression disorder or seasonal affective disorder or whatever. There's
yeah,
it's literally depression during the change in season.
yeah,
And especially being up there where you're away from your family and away from your support I can't imagine that's easy. So mental health definitely needs to be talked about more in this industry and especially in the oil industry because it's just not a very great lifestyle. I think you can make pretty good money and I think that it does provide a lot for the people in it,
yep.
but I don't think that that's talked about very much, and that's exactly why. Because people like you open your mouth about it, and it's like, sit back down, you clown, you're weak, or whatever it is, you know?
Hey, man, one of my best friends, I called him on the phone today and we were talking. And I'm like, man, did you see the video I did on mental health the other day? He's like, yeah, you were laying in Mrs. Frost's lap And I didn't know whether to laugh or what. I'm like, what? And he's like, I was waiting for the punchline to happen. And that's the thing, right? Because I make funny videos. And
Hmm.
then he's like, honestly, it looked made you look kind of weak, made you look like a pussy. And I'm like, man, that's the problem. That is the problem right there, right? But
Yeah.
but here's another thing. There's a reason why men don't talk. My dad, like I said, my dad had it, right? And my dad found out he had it later in life than what I'm finding out. And for him, he had pushed everyone away already. What he needed was someone to lean into him more, someone to fight for him, right? I used to think of my dad up until recently as he was a problem and the world would be better off without him in it, right? That's not what he needed. He needed someone to understand the guy. You know how many times I've actually shed some tears about this exact thing over the last week, learning, thinking about my dad, because how many of my family members over the last week since I made that video have seen it and had no one's reached out? No one has asked me if I'm good. My mom called me and she's like, hey, you should see a doctor for your mental health. And I'm like, yeah, you're right, I should. And then we hung up the phone and it was never talked about. And then my sister, she talks to my wife all the time, hasn't asked, hasn't texted me, hasn't called me. The amount of people that you'd expect to be there for you,
Yeah.
they're not there. Strangers on the internet are there for you more than anything, which is
It's
wild.
it's weird because social media has almost made it because so many people are so fake for so long. It
Yeah,
is almost people think that you're faking it and maybe just don't even pay attention because most people, I think, just assume everything they see on there is fake at this point. I think there might have been a time where people saw things and believed them, and nowadays it's just there's so much distrust and everything. It's like, see something video and they're like, man, scroll past it because they're like, yeah, that's not, yeah, I don't care. It's not true. They're probably just fishing for views, that type of stuff. But that makes it even more important to be as truthful as you can and share that type of stuff so that this idea can be pushed to the side because we can't keep going on thinking that everybody's just being fake all the time. And I think there are still people on there trying to be fake and
absolutely.
fish for views, but it's not everybody. And that's not a very good way to go about, your life, not reaching out, not caring
Yeah.
about people, that type of stuff.
Yep, absolutely. And this week on my podcast is actually a really good one. I don't know if you saw the trailer for it earlier I posted, but it's a really good one. It was a guy who reached out to me about 7 months ago, and he was an airline attendant, flying guys back and forth to camp up north in the work camps, and he was trying to go to school for to become a therapist, and he did a lot of talking with a lot of guys, in the blue collar world and gals. And what he came up with is that, like, a lot of guys told him it's not that they don't want to talk. We want to talk. No one wants to listen, right?
Yeah.
And especially he said, there in the trailer I posted today about it, he said, truth is most doctors don't know what you and I do. They don't know the first thing about the blue collar world. And how are they supposed to help you when they don't know anything about you?
Yeah, I
Right.
mean it's definitely hard. Like this is a not to get too deep into just into the college thing, but this is a lot of my problem with college is like people get pushed off to universities and stuff, and it's all practicing, learning theory from people who have never been in the field that they're teaching, just teaching what they've learned out of textbook. And then those people get pushed out into the field, not knowing anything about the real world, real people, real experiences. And that's not everybody, but that's a fairly general um, overview of it. It's like
Yeah.
it's all theory. You can't really understand people specifically based on that. Like you have to do a lot of time talking to individuals to um, really appreciate that. You almost need to have like a specific blue collar therapist.
Oh,
So
dude, they
it,
would they would make a killing in these work camps. I don't know why they don't have therapists
oh,
in here for us to talk
oh,
to.
I mean, that's, I at this point I would assume that somebody would have pushed for that already. Like a therapist being in the field up there because that's almost a safety requirement, I think. I mean,
100%.
making sure everybody's okay because
Do you think my mind has been on task for like the last 8 months? Dude, I disassociated like in May. And when I came to, it was Christmas Eve. You know what I mean? And like, where did the last 6 months, 7 months go? It's crazy.
yeah, I just and it would feel to me, I mean, I'm just imagining being up in an oil field because I had kind of thought through that process. Like you said, like people have this plan, they're gonna go there, they're gonna make money and get out. They're gonna do this and that with their money, all that. I kind of thought about it for a while and was like, man, it'd be kind of cool to go up and make all that money and then come home and be home for, what however long and then go back and do that and just be done after a couple years. And then I was thinking about it, I'm like, when you're gone, that would suck. That would really suck when you're at work. Unless, I mean, you have to really find a good group of people to work with in a good place and be doing
Helps.
something that you would enjoy because all of the surrounding situation would just be hard and miserable.
Yep. Yeah, it helps. It
Yeah.
helps when you have a good crew and you can gel with them. A
Yep.
lot of the
Yep.
guys here, they make TikToks too, right? They make videos, right? They don't have a big following, but like,
Yeah.
it helps when. So the one guy I work with, I haven't worked with him in months, and we were working together right now, right? Last time I saw him was before Christmas. About 2 weeks before Christmas, we were doing crew change. He was on days and I was on nights, and I was tired. I just jumped in the truck and I left, and he went home on days off, and I didn't see him for a month. He's back now, and one of my most favorite videos ever made was shortly after I met him for the first time. And like I have more followers and I have all the fun and all this experience, right? And he's like, I have this idea for a video. I'm like, okay. I'm like, I watched the sound and listened to the sound or whatever and watched the videos and got an idea. And I'm like, okay, we're gonna do this back at camp later on, right? We're gonna go to the lounge room and we're gonna sit on the couch and we're gonna do it there. He's like, okay. And it was the perfect setting, right? And I let him lead because like I liked his ideas. But the way he did some of his movements, like he had to do a side profile, and the way his lip went up, and he's like, nope, right? And had to lip sync it. It was just the perfect timing. And man, when he was making that, I was mind blown. But every time I watch it back, I watch for his part, right? I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, here it comes, right? I get so excited, right? And man, the guy is amazing. He's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right there as you're talking about this, I can hear how passionate you are about these videos that you're making. So I think that's an important thing to touch on, being passionate about at least something that you do, right? Like you need to find passion in either your work, in what makes you money. Um, but in this case, I mean, I'd imagine you like or enjoy what you do at least a little bit, otherwise you wouldn't be there. But
Oh
it
yeah.
seems like you found the passion in doing the TikToks and doing the fun content while you're up there, right?
Yeah.
I mean, to some degree is, and that's what you're saying is that's helped you manage being up in the oil field, the
Yeah.
human aspect.
Yeah, man. What happened was, remember, like I said a few minutes ago, there, I did it because I needed to laugh, right? I was
Yep,
going
yep.
through something. It was a dark time, and I needed to laugh, so I made what made me laugh, right? And then, when it exploded and kind of everyone started watching, I had people come up to me shaking my hand. I'm like, hey, man, I just want to shake your hand. I'm like,
Yeah.
hey, good to meet you, man. And like, yeah, they're like, I just want to thank you. And I'm like, okay, for what? And they're like, for giving the boys something to smile and laugh at when it's minus 40, when it's plus 40, when we're away from home for 4 or 5 weeks, and everything we love is back home waiting for us, and we're covered in oil and grime and just dirty, and we're eating camp sandwiches for the fucking fourth week in a row. And and the camp food isn't always good. So it is good sometimes, but and that's when it hit me. I'm like, damn, dude, I'm making them to make me feel better. And the oil field, we always say this: big industry, small community, right? Whether you're in Russia, the US, Canada, you're in Mexico, you're in Qatar, right? We don't all speak the same language, but the oil field is one language. We're all tired and missing what we love in the same language. And that was huge, man. Having my content expand that far and having people appreciate it and understand it and come together over it it's amazing. It's an amazing feeling.
Um, let's go to your oil field job a little bit real quick. What do you do every day? I think on a day-to-day basis. I think I've seen you driving trucks a lot, right?
I
So
I don't drive, but I like to pretend I do. But
okay,
like
okay, in the
so
video, right?
so so for the last 7 years I worked on a vac truck, which is
Okay.
environmental stuff, and we chase oil rigs around, and when there's spills, we clean it up, and basically we're the oil field janitors, right? We take care of the mess. And what that comes with is we're covered in all the chemicals all the time. So every chemical in the oil field I've worn on my skin at some point in time. It's gonna kill me probably.
Yeah,
Probably gonna
probably.
have lung problems soon,
That's what I was
right?
gonna
I've
just
been in
say.
tanks
Not
with
good.
yeah, and but that job I was on call 24/7, and sometimes I'd work up to 40 hours straight, right? And sometimes you just never know. And that I did that for 7 years, and it fucked with my mental health badly. Like I needed out. Um, I met a guy on TikTok who owned a company. We were friends, and I think it was September. I was like, I need out of this place. I just need. For the last couple of years, I was thinking I need out of this place, and I don't know where to go. He reached out and he's like, "Hey, man, what are you doing?" And I'm like, "Oh, just at work, hanging out." And he's like, "Want to come work for me?" And I'm like, "Oh, what are you doing?" He's like, "Oh," explain the job to me, explain the money, the hours and stuff like that. And I'm like, "Yeah." Within an hour, I signed an offer letter, and within 2 weeks, I was here. Now I'm on a steamer. There's a lot of ass time. I can do a lot. And he's like, "Man, you might sit around for a few days doing nothing." I'm like, "I got a podcast, buddy. I can do a lot of editing. I can make a lot of videos. I got lots of things going on. Don't worry about that."
Yeah.
So now, I work on a steamer, a big boiler, right? We keep the trucks that I used to run from freezing. We keep the equipment from freezing and whatnot. And when it needs to be cleaned out, I go fire up the water hose, and I get the steam going, the hot water going, and I just clean it up. Gravy gig. And not home, not missing home for 6 7 weeks anymore. I'm home every 3 weeks for a week. I don't work more than 12 hours a day. I'm back in my room, and that was key. That was key to getting me here. All right, that 40-hour thing, that on call thing, that was stressing me out. Um, Now I can do I can say, hey, I'm going to be back in my room at this time every night, right? I did the first 70 episodes of my podcast based off of, hey man, what are you doing tonight? 20 minutes from now. Want to record a podcast in 20 minutes from now? Because I don't know when I can record next. So I'd say 6 7 weeks ahead at a time, all the time, because my volatile schedule, right? And now I can be like, hey man, you want to record next Tuesday at 8 p.m. because I'm there. I can
Yeah.
tell you I'm going to be there. I guarantee it. Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was it. This is my boss was a little worried I wouldn't like the work and I wouldn't like this stuff. I'm like, man, I'm back in my room by 8 p.m. I don't care about anything else. I'm good.
Like, I mean, he has to know that you have plenty to do. Like, I mean, I would be concerned doing all of that stuff you're doing and continuing to have to keep up that busy schedule forever, because at some point something's got to give. And it
Yep. It was
sounded
starting to.
like sounded like your mind was starting to give there.
It was starting to, man. This past summer, I took a step back from posting content for a bit. There was a couple new videos here and there, but it was mostly just old reposts. My mind was starting to just go. I only had time for one. I only had time for either my podcast or my content. You could tell when my podcast I was far enough ahead because I'd start posting videos, and you could tell that my I was starting to fall behind on the podcast
Yeah.
when you wouldn't see any videos from me. I was just focusing
Yeah.
hard on the podcast. I'd record every night for a week, right?
Yeah.
And you know how hard that is to like have a conversation like that every night for a week,
Yeah.
like trying not to tell the same stories over again because it's fresh in my mind because I just told it, so
Yeah.
I can pull that up and be like, hey. And then for like 6 7 weeks you're hearing me repeat certain things, right? And like I had to stop doing that, and I just, all right, I'll get 5 6 weeks ahead, then I'll stop for a while, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I this last year we were building a house and um we started in about May, and pretty much from May on, you can tell in my podcast and in my video making, they
Yeah.
both took a rapid dive, and you can tell times where I was putting a little bit more work into my podcast, my videos would on my personal page or whatever, my content would go down, and it would go vice versa because I can't be go to work and then come up to my house and work until dark and then go home, sleep, wake
Yeah.
up, go work the next day. There's no time in there for recording podcast interviews with people and editing and making the little clips for social media and then trying to figure out content for my personal pages. Like there's no time in there for all of that when you've got all of this stuff going on. So I felt that like as you're describing all of this, I felt that in some similar way this last year because I was super busy and it was like it was starting to get to me. It was like I can't keep up all of this stuff. There's no way. There's no
Yep.
possible way for me to continue. Um, but I mean, it sounds like you were doing that for longer than much longer than this last year.
To
Like
give
you've
you
been,
a sense of how that went,
yeah,
when I was on the vac and I was going giving her, and I tell you, it was a lot of hours. There's only there's 168 hours in a 7 day period total, right? From
yeah,
Monday to Sunday,
uh-huh,
there is 168 hours total. There were weeks where I was working like in an 8 day period, I'd do like 170 hours, right?
nice,
There was a lot of pay periods, like in two week pay periods where, yeah, you get all that the 170 hours in 8 days, but it might slow down for a few days after that. It might pick up. Um, there were weeks where I'd have like 200, and I think the most I ever had was like 214 hours on a pay period. So I was
great,
doing podcasting, content creation, working. I'd get a little bit of sleep on site, while we were waiting for stuff.
yeah,
I'd crash. But for the most part, when I was sitting there waiting, instead of crashing, I need to look for content ideas.
yeah, yeah,
I need to reach out to people. Hey, want to come on my podcast? Right. Or I'd edit. Right. So the times where I should have been getting a little nap in, it was like, I'm also working on this stuff. Right. And man, that was a wild like 7 years, man. Like I can't believe, stopping and like looking back at how the podcast started, under the terms it started, like content, right? That was a wild few years.
yeah. But I mean, at this point, all of that time and effort has paid off and is paying off for you.
Yeah.
And that's what it takes sometimes. I mean, it takes most people do not get to that point because they start to see how much work it is and how much time it's going to take. And they're like, oh man, there's no way somebody could do this. There's no way you could have this amount of time to dedicate to all of this stuff. And they quit. But the people that continue aren't thinking about that. They're thinking, man, I need to get this done. I need to do this. That's just something I need to do. I've told myself I'm going to do it, so I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
And at some point, if you're that busy, it comes with a price, but usually it starts to pay off and, opportunities show up. And, this is something I've thought about, like looking for opportunities and being open to them, you know.
Yep.
You could have very easily just not even been open to that opportunity and been stuck in doing what you were doing before.
Well, I
And
had another one that I let slide that I kicked myself in the ass for.
Yeah.
At
Yeah.
another company, it was a rival company actually.
Oh,
He reached out to me because he saw an Instagram reel and he's like, man, that's funny. So he reached out to me. He's asked me, do you want to do lunch? I'm like,
yeah.
absolutely, man. So I went and did lunch and I live 3 hours away. And he's like, I want you to come visit me for the weekend. And I want you to, we'll get you a hotel. We'll get you a hotel. Don't worry. You can get a hotel here and I'll buy you lunch and I'll supply your dinner and whatnot. And I'm like, okay. And he gave me a really good offer, but I was scared because it was something I wasn't quite ready for. He offered me to take me out of that labor life and that what I'm doing. And he's like, I'll give you a company truck, I'll buy you a drone. You follow the directions to where our rigs are and where our trucks are. And he's like, you make content for us. That'll be your job. I'll pay you what you're making now and then some. And you just go and I wasn't ready for that. I was scared. I was like, fuck, no way. This is not happening right now. Right. And I kept him on the line for a good month or two. And the offer kept getting better and better and better. Right. And like, fuck, man, I gotta tell this guy no because he's not gonna stop, right? So I pretty much ghosted the guy. He got so mad at me, and now I'm on site with his company. I see his guys all the time. I talk to them, and I'm like, hey, man, tell your boss I love him. Like he's a solid guy, but like like I'm sorry that I did what I did. He'll know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And they or yesterday or today, one of the supervisors came up and he's like, I talked to him the other day. He's like, he might call you back again soon. So he's like, keep your phone on and look for that phone call. Right. So like that's pretty cool, man. That's a pretty cool opportunity that might be circling back around. If it does, it does. If it doesn't, that's cool too. But
Yeah.
you know, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, people talk about how they're open to opportunities. And I thought about that a lot lately. And it takes more than just being open to it. Like you have to have your mind be in a place where
Absolutely.
you can push yourself to that point. But also like you almost have to be actively seeking that type of stuff and preparing yourself, right? Because you can say you're open to opportunities all day, every day. But if an opportunity comes your way and you're like you were at that point, you'll clam up and be like, "Oh, I don't think I can."
Yep.
Even though they're offering it to you, they think you can do it. All you've got to do is take the jump. And it's
Yep.
like, "Oh, no, I just don't think I can do it, you know? I gotta say no." And that happens to a lot of people. And it goes to show that being open to opportunities is not quite enough. You have to be looking and preparing yourself and thinking through the potential to be able like to be ready when one comes,
Yep.
which are really be ready when one comes your way. So I hope that works out because that'd be kind of cool. Be
So
kind of
so
cool.
here's the thing, right? Being in this space, doing what we're doing it right now.
Yeah.
Right? We
Yeah.
do it every time we put the phone up and we're inviting those opportunities. We're asking for it. We're manifesting it, right?
Yep. Yep.
And I work with some pretty cool companies and doing some really cool things. Like I recently got BetterHelp sponsor my podcast, right? That's
Nice.
so
Yeah.
that is so cool. Brasco Safety here where I live and NWT Safety on different opposite ends of the city do the same
Yeah.
thing. They supply work gear, boots and coveralls and hard hats and stuff like that. We work together a lot where they have poker chips now where if you see me and I carry them on me all the time, if you see me ask for one and I'll give you it, you take it to the shop, you get the top tier discount on everything they have in there, right? And yeah, and I think that's pretty cool. And they rented a porta potty the other day specifically just so I could go and make a video.
I saw you say that in the
That's
group
wild.
chat. Yeah. I mean, I feel like the troll opportunity to become a Trollco ambassador for me came about largely in part due to my podcast. And a lot of things that have been happening lately are due to that as well. But it's not even it's not even necessarily because of the connections I've made through the podcast, but they have helped a ton. It's through my ability to talk to people and ask questions and not care and not be afraid about what's going to happen. Like I've been reaching out to different companies asking if they want to send me gear to try out. And I've
Yeah.
gotten a couple people to send me gear. I've gotten one company to actually send me a nail bag that I'm trying out, which they're freaking expensive and pricey. And I was like,
Oh yeah.
Really? Like you guys are gonna send me one just because? Like it blows my mind still. I'm in this position because I'm like pursuing that type of stuff,
Yeah.
and I feel like the podcast is helping me work through that situation.
Absolutely.
It's
Absolutely, man.
yeah, and it's like that's being ready for opportunities. That's being open to opportunities right there
Yep.
is
Yep.
actively pursuing and like you said, manifesting them to come about. So
Yep.
I don't have a show sponsor yet, but I'm kind of I've always been afraid to ask people, right? Like I'm not open. I'm not open to it yet. I'm getting to
It
that
will
point.
come.
It's like, you know what? I need to start asking. I need to start telling people like, hey guys, I'm looking for a show sponsor. Because if I just sit here and I'm like, okay, if someone asks me, I'll say yes. But that's not enough either, right? And to anybody listening, like if you want to change something, you have to start making your moves towards that direction. You can't just say, "Okay, I'm just ready for the next thing that comes along. I'm ready
Yep.
for an opportunity that comes, and I'll take it."
Yep.
Because you
Absolutely.
probably won't. You probably won't take it.
My boots are $300, right?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
haven't paid for my boots in 2 years, right?
Yeah. That's pretty
Man,
cool.
because of social media, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's absolutely wild to me. It's mind-boggling, man, and um Gord from the Second Act podcast had a really good guest on, and he's been on mine. It was actually my second ever live stream, like in person podcast.
Mhm.
And I've only done a couple of those. And OGR Scintilla. And he said it best. He's like, a million opportunities are going to come your way when you're in this space. And
Yep.
you can't take them all. Right?
Yep.
You can't. There's no way you can do it. He's like, you're going to let some really good ones slide. Right? But don't worry about it because you keep showing up and another good one is around the corner.
Yep.
Right. And that's amazing, man. Like I never really thought of it like that. Like that's when I changed my mindset. I was kicking myself in the ass for letting that job slide.
Yep.
Right. There's another one right around the corner. You know what I mean? Like it's big industry, small community, you know what I mean? And like, so something will pop up, something will happen.
Yeah. Yeah. That's super cool. How did you get people reaching out about your sponsorships? Like, or did you start asking?
So my very first sponsor was the Mudman, and mine and his relationship predates the podcast. He
Hmm.
was following me on TikTok and Instagram before the podcast started, and he reached out to me. And the Mudman deals in viscosity, right? There's a whole bit about it on my ad. It's a baked in ad. I just throw it out there and I ask the question, and do you know what viscosity is? And we've had some pretty wild conversations off that question alone. But basically, he deals in the thickness of drilling mud, right, on a rig, and his high tech tools and stuff. And he's like, hey, he's like, I was listening to your podcast, and he's like, I've been listening to it for the last 10 episodes. He's like, something stuck out to me on episode 11. Your audio quality was better. So I went and watched the video because I was listening to it, and I went to watch the video and to see what the difference was. And he's like, you had headphones in. I'm like, yeah, man, that's pretty much what it was. And he's like, your audio was trash before then. Like, yeah, it did. It sucked. He's like, I want to buy you a headset and a microphone. I'm like, okay, cool, let's do it. So he bought me a headset and a microphone, and away it went. That was a great. It was supposed to be a 5 episode run, and here we are, 109 episodes later. And so, yeah. So this past summer, he reaches out to me and he's like, "Man, what can we do to help your podcast out?" You know what I mean? Like, it's like you got the mic, you got the headphones and whatnot. What else can we do? And I'm like, editing has been atrocious on my computer because it's an old whatever it is,
Yeah.
and it takes like an hour to boot up, and I don't. By the time I get around to actually getting the program up to edit it, I'm tired. I don't want to do it. So if
Yeah.
there's any, faulty shit in it or the audio's off or whatever, it goes up the way it goes up. I don't care. It's blue collar podcast. It's blue collar. We're rough and tumble. It's rough and tumble.
Hmm.
So how did we solve that? Guy sends me a $2,000 MacBook Pro, and that's what I'm recording on right now. And
That's
like, man, I open the lid, I open Audacity, I throw the audio in there, and I can edit a podcast in 20 minutes,
yeah.
right? And so a lot of our audio issues have been solved because the microphone in this thing is amazing. The camera on it's great, and I can edit.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
crazy.
No, it's crazy. It's crazy how much that little bit will help, you know.
Yeah,
Um, I
man.
I've been running mine off of this computer that I bought when I was going to school still, going to university here. It was like refurbished, 300 something bucks computer that I just needed for one class that I needed to be able to run a program on. And that's what I'm running this podcast off of. It's crazy how like it works for this scenario, but like that is another step I need to take too. It's like that type of stuff needs to come to help further the podcast, and
Absolutely.
it's everything helps. It's cool that that they did that for you. So yeah,
Yeah, man. It was definitely pretty awesome. You know, it blows my mind. This is probably the most expensive thing I've ever had in my life, like besides my car and my kids, but like yeah, it's wild, man. This thing is pretty cool. The things you can do on it. I don't know how to work the video editing tools that well, so I still use CapCut on my phone. I like,
yeah,
it's whatever. But as for audio, dude, I've learned how to zoom in and out and cut pieces and paste pieces and make it sound cool. And I had a guy on episode 14, actually. He created my intro outro music for me. And the guy's a small time creator. I think he's a journeyman electrician,
mhm,
but he's in a band, right? And he only does the blue collar thing so he can afford his music, right?
yeah,
So he doesn't want to be working blue collar, man. He just does it for the money, right? And dude, my intro outro music has been life changing, and well, not life changing, but it's been pretty good. And he's coming back on soon. He's adding lyrics to it for me, and it's been a year and a half since he dropped it for me. So we're adding lyrics to it, and I'm excited to hear what he can come up with. So
that's cool. That's cool. Um, I had a question real quick.
yeah.
How long did you say you were working in the oil field for?
Oh man, 13 years now.
Yeah, so what were you doing before you were on the vac truck? Because you said that was the last 7, and now you're in a different job. What was before
Yeah.
that?
I'm trying to think. Oh, so I worked for this company called Frack Shack. Now, if I had been doing content when I worked for them, oh man, I could have, like, I don't think the content would have been as good, but I definitely would have had a lot more time for it. So I I sat on a frack pad while they were fracking, and I basically babysat a computer that said, "Hey, the pumpers that they're fracking with are running low on fuel," and I hit a button, and the reels in the trailer with me were full of fuel, and it would fuel up the pumpers. Right? You were supposed to keep that thing on manual, so you had to get up and check it and do it. I always kept it in automatic. Like it would read it. The problem with that bit me in the ass one time. The batteries were running low and it was reading full, but it was really empty at the truck. It was really, really running low. And I could hear on the radio, I was actually having a nap. And it was terrible. I got really lazy at that job. It was brutal. The consultant had to come in and be like, I don't need to tell you to stay in your own lane, do I? And I'm like, no, no, sir. So I could hear him on the radio talking about how the pumper's running out of fuel, but I'm like, it's reading full here. I have it in manual or automatic. So I put it over to manual and the lights start flashing. Like, low, low, low. I had to run out there in between two high pressure trucks, unscrew the thing, put new batteries in, screw it back in, and then go and hit the button to send fuel to the thing. Man, they were getting ready close to shut down, and I would have been holding up production all because of fucking 212, two double A's.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. I did that for a year, and then before that, what was I doing before that, man? Geez, this is pre-kids now, dude.
And, yeah, been a long time, huh?
Pre-kids, man. What was I doing before that? Um, I was screw piling. I screw piled for actually on this site here. I was here for 10 years ago. I was here on this site before it was built, and we were help building it. And I was screw piling, and we were building all the foundations for the buildings
Oh,
and stuff. It's cool
interesting.
to come back 10 years later and see
Yeah.
everything. It's really
There's
neat.
there's some smaller like screw pile applications around here. So I mean, you were essentially doing construction type stuff, oil field.
Yeah, man, yeah,
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, there's a couple companies around here that are almost like residential, like smaller time screw pile tech companies.
yeah,
I've always been interested in how that stuff works. It's a side that you don't get to see very often. I mean,
yeah.
so you must have been doing that for a while then.
That was a year and a bit. Um, Before that, I was working up here, but on a different site, and it's cool to see that site running now. It's not even owned by the same oil company anymore.
Yeah.
Um, I was there for 2.5 years. Just about we were helping build. It was like one of the last mega projects. Is SAGD, steam assisted gravity drainage. So they pump all the steam down in the oil sands, and it separates the dirt from the oil instead of digging and mining and scarring the land even more, right? And you way less trees they got to tear down. You just, so they pump steam down there, they heat up the oil seeps and catches into the pipes and they suck it up, right? So instead of, yeah. And so we built that plant. That was I asked a big wig one time how much this place costs to run per day while we were doing construction on it. 10 million a day.
Holy crap.
Here's the crazy thing about fracking too. So they use this stuff called FR, friction reducer,
Yeah.
right? They pump it down hole. Um, and before they were using that, they weren't using it obviously. But I was asking a guy, I'm like, so what's the returns on this stuff, right? Like, I don't like what are we doing here? He's like, well, this is friction reducer. Before they started using friction reducer, they were getting 60 to 65% returns, right? And that was considered amazing, right? The oil and gas sector needs to constantly evolve or die, right? They need to adapt, and so they come up with a few friction reducer FR. It's like snot, right? They pump it down hole. Now they get 90 to 95% returns.
That's great.
Two or 3 days of fracking pays for the whole operation from the drill on down, right? So, and that could take up to $5 million to drill a hole, one well, right? So
That's
depending on how
crazy.
deep you go in, yeah.
Wow. There's definitely some big money up there. And that is and that is what draws everybody to it.
You watch Landman?
I've had people ask or tell me to or recommend it. But
Yeah, it's a good show.
I've actually seen a lot of people bitching about it because they say, "Oh man, that's not like oil field life. That's not real." I'm like, whatever,
It's
dude."
not. There's a lot of Hollywood mumble jumble
I'm
thrown in there, but
sure.
like, you
I'm
know,
sure. I'm
Billy
sure.
Bob Thornton's a good guy. So
Yeah. I've thought about it, but honestly, after watching Yellowstone, um, I don't really think I care for Sheridan very much because I feel like all of the shows are like the same thing, the
yeah.
same story, like the same people. He just like reconfigures into a new story. But I don't know. I mean, it's obviously working because he's got a bunch of freaking shows that everybody's watching.
Yeah.
Everybody's
Oh, yeah.
talking about, and man, everybody's been talking about Yellowstone since it finished. Like, eh, must be on
I think he's
something.
worth $200 million right now. And I read somewhere the other day, like 6 years ago, he was only worth like $80.
Pretty much. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. No, I heard he was struggling as an actor and then decided to try to write a show or something. And yeah, now
Yeah.
owns that 4 Sixes ranch with some other people. Freaking has multiple shows on TV. I mean, I was watching the Tulsa King. Have you seen that?
I've so up until recently, I could never get past the first episode. I would
Yeah.
fall asleep.
Yeah.
Second episode would come on, I was already asleep. I'm like, shit. So I put it away for a few months, and then a year, oh, maybe even a year. And then I tried to watch it again. Same thing happened. First episode, I'm glued. I'm loving it. Second episode, I passed out. I'm like, all right, whatever. So I was home on days off with my wife, and I'm like, we should watch Tulsa King. I heard it's really good. I watched the first episode a couple times. Maybe you should. We got to episode three, man. I was like, oh, this show's really good.
I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed it. But yeah, I mean, again, it's the same thing. Like I feel like Taylor Sheridan's shows are all the same, but I don't know. It's working for him.
Yeah, man.
So
What do you do for work?
concrete.
Concrete. Oh, so okay. I know a lot of like people go to World of Concrete
Yeah.
that aren't into concrete, right? They just go because it's a trade show and
Yeah. So yeah, I do concrete flat work, residential flat work, but there's a lot of people there that don't do anything with concrete. I was surprised. There's a lot of influencers there that are just like some of the Trollco ambassadors were there that
yeah.
one of them was an electrician. T Berry Electric, I think, was
Oh
there.
yeah, I talked to T Berry. He's coming on my podcast actually. So
They-
soon.
Cool.
I'm trying to get you on too. So
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think I need to get on Sean's because he was on mine and he's saying, but like, like I said, this year's been crazy. Like I only started doing interviews again after the house started. Once we moved in and got settled, probably a month ago. I think this is my third-ish interview plus the episodes that I've had Jesse on co-hosting with me since I brought him on.
like
But
Slimberg,
yeah,
I love Slimberg, man. He's been on my podcast. I love that guy.
yeah, I brought him on as a co-host for two episodes a month, so every other episode. Um, and it's been fun. It's been going good. So
Shout
we
out to
just
Jesse, man.
he's
Have you ever met that guy?
yeah,
I mean, you guys live in Utah together,
he lives
so
45 minutes north of me.
that's one tall dude.
Yeah, we always, for everybody that doesn't know, we're all in the Trollco ambassador in a group chat. Everybody always freaking picks on Jesse for being a giraffe because he's freaking tall. And then
Yeah.
sometimes I look at the picture, like I'll see the picture that me and him took because we did an in-person interview at that studio I like down south from me. And he's like all the way in the heck up here. I feel like I'm in his armpit. It's crazy. He's freaking tall.
How tall
So
are you?
5'8".
I'm
So
5'4", so I'd be underneath your armpit.
yeah, no, he's tall. I don't even know how tall he is. I think he's told me before. I'm pretty sure he said he's 6'6", but I don't
Yeah,
freaking know.
6'6" or 6'7" or something like that. Yeah, he's tall. He's
I
very
don't
tall.
if he ends up listening to this, Jesse, you're tall. You are a tall guy,
Do you
but we
think
don't
his
hate.
penis would be proportionate to his height?
I don't even want to talk about it.
You do. You're curious. I know you are. I
That's
am.
yeah, Dick Frost, you would be. Actually,
Yeah.
we talk about how that came up. That was one thing. I saw you posted something about how you came up with that name, but I wanted to ask you how you and have you explain it on here.
All right. So this predates TikTok and social media and stuff as well. So it was a polar vortex, probably fuck, what year did I start? So 2020. It's a vortex ended 2018 into 2019. I'd say the February 2019, there was a polar vortex. It was minus 50. And I'm outside steaming wellheads because they stopped working in the cold. And I'm like steaming, taking the steam to them. And I couldn't stand upwind from it. I had to stand downwind because there was a couple really important bigwig engineer people up here, and God forbid they get out of the way. So, kiss the ring. So I stood downwind and I caught all the steam, right? And I'm in there for like 8 hours, just giving her. When when that stopped, you're catching hot water in minus 48. I would say freezing instantly. And so there was about 3 inches of ice around my hard hat, icicles hanging off the sides, icicles hanging down from my safety glasses. I was wearing a black hard hat at the time, and my raincoat was so frozen. it wouldn't unzip anymore. I had to pull it off like a sweater, and it stood up on its own.
Oh my heck.
Right. And my name is Richard. So Richard Dick, and I was frosted. I was frosted over. So I'm like, Dick Frost reporting for duty. What's up? Right. And I posted that on Facebook. I get back to the shop at the end of the day, and my boss comes out. He's like, "What's up, Dick Frost?" And I was like, "Hey, man, what's up?" Right. And it became a joke, became like a thing. And I was on site a few months later, and I built a snowman while we were waiting, and I put my hard hat on top of him and the glasses, and like hardest worker in the patch, Dick Frost, right? Like Frosty the Snowman. And then I started TikTok a few months after that, and it was originally my real name, right from the first name to the last name for the first 1,000 or so followers. And it got to the point where people started finding me on my personal Facebook and adding me, and I had my phone number. Remember when you could put your phone number on Facebook? I had my phone number in the bio, and people were calling me looking for jobs from everywhere. So I'm like, I gotta change my name on here. This can't be
Yeah.
my name. So I'm sitting there. I'm like, man, what do I change my name to? Fuck, Dick Frost, the $1 million idea sitting right there. Right. I stick my name in there, and that's how the story goes. And if you look at some of my videos, sometimes I'll repost an old one from the early days,
Yeah.
and you can tell who's an OG follower because they'll be like, I remember that. That's when your name was your real name on TikTok. Right. And I get that comment quite a bit from the odd, there's about 5, 6 people on there that are still around from there that have made themselves known that they're around from that time.
Yeah.
And they're like, I remember this. This is an OG video. This is one of the first videos, one of the OGs. And man, it makes me smile, right? Because like I've watched a lot of that old content since then, and it blows my mind that I was ever able to gain a following off of that shit. It is horrible content.
I think that's how it happens as a content creator. Like you make videos, post them, and if you can get past that block in your mind of just putting it out there and moving on, eventually you get better, and then you start going back, and after you've been getting better at videos and figuring out what you like to post, and you're like, man, why did I even post that? That's crazy. It doesn't even make sense.
Yeah, there was a lot of political joking, a lot of political jokes, I guess I should say, at the beginning, and a lot of things that just I wasn't allowed to make videos on site at the time.
Oh,
So it'd be me in the truck, it would be me in camp, and yeah, it wasn't until I made a video. I got ballsy one time and just made one on site, and fucking everyone loved it. So they're like, "Yeah, more of that." So I'm like, "Okay." So I'm just like, "Yeah, I'm over here." If I'm on site, if you see me come on site, I'm off in a corner somewhere where you're not gonna see me making the video, but you can see everything behind me,
yeah.
right? And a lot of the time it's strategically placed, right? Because I've come to learn over the years that like, hey, like I can show this much of what I'm doing, but I can't show what's around the corner even just slightly, right? I'm not allowed to show and whatnot, like logos and names and stuff like that. I've made them in tanks while I was working, a consultant standing above me, and he knows what's about to happen. I pull my phone out, I look above me, he's like, do it, do it. I make it. He's like, come up here and show me. I'm like, all right. He's like, it happened last winter. I made a video. He's like, come show me that. I want to see it. I want to see it. I want to be the first one to see it. So I showed him. He's like, post it right now. I'm like, man, it's 8 o'clock at night. Like, it's not gonna do well. He's like, post it right now. I posted it, 2 million views by morning. I'm like,
Oh
shit,
my
dude. All right.
Yeah, I swear, like instances like that, it makes you wonder about the right time to post because I swear posting at the same time every day doesn't work all the time, and posting randomly doesn't work sometimes. But like you can post a video at 8 o'clock at night and you'll get millions of views. Do it at 8 o'clock at night. Same quality of video, same kind of theme, same ability to get people's attention, and it will get nothing,
Yeah.
a couple days later. It's just weird that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
My first million view video was posted at 2 in the morning. Right. I was on night shift. I just threw the phone up. I posted the video and I went back to work. in the morning, 7 o'clock in the morning rolls around. I head back to camp. I'm eating my breakfast. I pull my phone up. I look, 1 million views. What? Right? That's cool. Right? Put it down. I got a cake for that. I had my buddy on TikTok, man. He was a much bigger creator at the time. His wife made me a cake for it.
Yeah, for a million view video.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it wasn't a good cake, but like it was a cake nonetheless.
What's that good? At least you got one.
Yeah,
I'm
hell
like,
yeah.
getting cakes?
Shit, man. Yeah, dude. Uh fuck, dude. Man, I I appreciate you having me on your podcast, man. It's not often I get to go on other people's podcasts. So, I love it, dude.
Yeah.
The first ever one I went on, I think was do you know who Chase Barber is? He's making the electric trucks up in BC, Canada there, and Edison
Oh, man.
Motors. He's got a podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went on his twice and like that was cool. I love doing that. But Gort's from the second act, he's what really got me really wanting to start my own.
Yeah.
Being on his and listening to his and whatnot and the type of guests he gets and oh dude, I just it really I had another one. I started another one with another guy. We were co-hosts. And turns out you shouldn't have a podcast with someone you barely know.
Yeah, probably not.
We went on a 10 episode run. It was amazing.
Yeah.
And then things fell apart 10 weeks in, and I knew I wasn't done, right? I wasn't sure if I could do it on my own. So we went in and on it together. It gave me the confidence to go about it on my own. And then I think like 2 months after it ended, I needed some time to lick my wounds. I was a little bit, I was down about it. But 2 months later, after, working on some stuff and figuring it out, my own started. And we just talked about episode 100, right? This last Wednesday when I was home or Tuesday, I recorded a live stream episode, 2 year anniversary of my podcast dropping that day.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Cool. I think my 2 year anniversary might end up being right on episode 100 because I did miss 2 weeks of podcasts. Right around when we moved in and we're getting settled in and stuff. And I was like, you know what? I tried so hard to make sure I had a podcast posting every single week this whole time. And I didn't miss any podcasts like all the way up until I think like episode 80 something. And there was an episode there that I posted or I recorded, edited, got uploaded into my podcast platform and everything. And it didn't post. Either I didn't click submit, I didn't do whatever, and I didn't even notice. Because I was so busy, I didn't even notice that I didn't even post my podcast for like 3 weeks after. And then after that, I was like, well, shit. I guess here we are. So I'm that was like I don't know, probably I guess that was probably late 70s episode. And then I skipped a couple weeks here, probably right around episode 90, right before I started getting back into it. And like sometimes you just need the break, but it's been a push. I'm excited for 2 years to come up. So
Hell yeah, man.
episode,
Who's the coolest person you've had on your podcast?
I don't even I don't even know. I I've had a lot of cool people on.
Dick Frost.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is like I've had a lot of guys like you on, and I really liked having Jesse on. Obviously, he's my co-host now, and when I had Jesse on, that was when I felt like it was really starting to turn into something. It's because I was having friends on and kind of some people that I knew fairly well. I was reaching out to people here and there. Um, like I've made a ton of connections from it, which is cool. I think I wouldn't even be able to pick someone that's the best, because at this point, it's like so many people I've had on as guests have turned into good friends that I've known and collaborated with since. So I think it's just cool that I've made so many connections, honestly. I've
Definitely.
had a bunch of cool people on. I don't even know. I couldn't even tell you what my favorite podcast episode is that I've done because I've had a bunch. I've had a bunch that have been cool. And that's part of what's helped me keep going. It's
Yeah.
like I've enjoyed all of them. Even some of the ones that have been a little bit awkward or been a little bit like, towards the end of the interview, I'm like, okay, I'm ready to be done. Um, Even those ones I've enjoyed to some extent and have given me a renewed
Yeah.
desire to continue. So I don't know if you have a similar experience, but
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
I think I could categorize my favorite.
I definitely have a couple that stand out to me. Episode 69 with Grayson McGaw was pretty amazing. That guy's hilarious. And like one of my favorite people to talk to. That was almost 3 hours long. And that was our second time that I've had him on the podcast. I talked to him a lot. We never talk about the same shit twice. And like he's from North Carolina, super cool dude. I had Ed the Sock on. Don't know if you know who that is. Ed the Sock was talking hand puppet on Much Music back in the day in the late 90s, early 2000s. And I had the What No Way guy. I don't know if you know who that guy is on TikTok.
So I'm
What
not on TikTok.
No Way? Fuck's sakes. He's on Instagram too. And then I had Dave Marciano from Wicked Tuna on. That was a lot of
Yeah,
fun.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, those ones were
That's
really good.
the podcast has been, yeah, it's been
I'd have
cool.
to say one of my favorite episodes. If you can get him on, you can. Trust me, you can get him on. He's in the troll group, Jersey Mike.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Jersey Mike was one of my
cool.
all-time favorite episodes. That guy, okay, I've had a couple people tell me it's like we had a therapy session and hit record. That guy's got an incredible story. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, cool. He was I think didn't he get brought on recently into the troll group or has he been around for a long
How
time?
long have you been in the troll group?
Well, since like September or October or something. They
So
brought
yeah,
the people at
yeah,
that
I think
point.
he's been around in the last 4 or 5 months, 6 months maybe.
So probably about as long as I have, because I'm pretty sure he was one of the people that was getting brought in around the same time as me. Because there was like a whole bunch. There was like I swear there was like 20 people that got
Yeah.
brought in at the same time. Um, and he was one of the first people I talked to um, when I joined. So
Rough
yeah,
Iron's in there too. Rough Iron's a good person to have on the podcast.
I he was up here and Jesse mentioned he was up here. And I just wasn't ready at that point. We were still full bore building the house, busy type stuff. And I tried to connect with him well, not very hard, but I tried to connect with him at World of Concrete and that would have been cool. He was a person I would have liked to have done one there with because he was there. But yeah,
Welder in Progress and Electrician Megs,
yeah,
both been on my podcast. Great people.
yeah, I know I was planning on having them. I actually haven't had any girls on my podcast yet.
Man, I had like one whole month in the first year. August was
Yeah.
Blue Collar Women's Month. And
Yeah.
then like that was just a month dedicated to the women. And then I try to make it every like second or third episode. And then for a while there, it's just been a sausage fest. So I've been trying to get Steph the Smudger on. She works in the oil field in North Dakota. So she's badass. I'm trying to get her on. Trying to get uh she's under Sarah, the underwater welder, who's in the troll group.
Yep.
She's
Yep.
coming on. We just gotta work on a time. So
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't had any girls on. Honestly, it's been going well, actually I kind of have. I interviewed a couple that came on. Actually, you know what? I need to make sure and go back and see that I haven't had a girl on yet.
you know who I'm gunning for? Liv Taylor.
Oh, yeah.
We've
Yeah.
made progress. She's followed me back on Instagram and TikTok now. I
Yeah.
just got to get her to message me back now. Yeah.
I just Yeah, I guess I mean I've just been gravitating towards the guys I've seen around and I wasn't until joined the troll group, I didn't see very many blue collar blue collar women on
I
social
can feed
media.
you some good ones, man, that I've had on mine. I can feed you some amazing ones, dude. One who's really, really fun is Jess the Carpentress. She's out of Canada here, and she was her energy and her vibe, man. Like that was a good podcast. That
Yeah.
was really good.
Yeah, I need to start bringing some on because people probably think I'm sexist or something. I mean, I haven't done it on purpose. It's just been how it goes. It does seem though like I've been only interviewing people that are Trollco ambassadors lately. I mean, it's a good group of people, but it seems like I think that's all I've interviewed actually since I started putting more focus on my podcast again. Yeah, maybe I'll just make my way through the Trollco group. We'll see.
Oh man, do it up. It's a lot. There are a lot of good blue collar women on
Yeah,
Instagram. You got the blonde welder. I've had her on mine. You got Nicolette, who's the mud sleuth. Got her on mine.
yeah,
Safety girl Tanya, safety officer, lives close to me. We hang out from time to time. Man, there's so many incredible blue collar
yeah,
women out there.
yeah. I need to. I need to do it. And then I've thought about reaching out to Welder in Progress. I know she wants to come on, or she she was like, if you need a backup or you need someone that like last minute. And I was like, I don't think anybody's like a backup last minute. Anybody that wants to come on, I'm fine having on. Like
Are you
it's
are
serious.
are you are you Asian, South Asian, or no?
Nope,
No. Okay. What's
that's
your
racist.
heritage? Your
Right, my
heritage?
hair is all European,
All European? What's that?
English.
English. I
UK, yeah.
feel
All
I
of
feel
my
so bad. Can we cut that part out?
that's racist, dude.
No, no,
You're
it just
fucking racist.
maybe it's just the way the lighting was hitting your face there at times.
Well,
Like,
so when I was a baby, my parents dressed me up as a Asian baby because I was very um chubby, and so my eyes were like squinted. But it's just the
okay.
shape of my eyes, though. So,
Okay, no, and hey,
but
hey,
I
no
get people
offense.
asking, I get people asking if I'm Mexican. So people think I'm Mexican, especially when I go up and start talking Spanish to somebody. Um, I've had some
La
Hispanic people.
migra, la migra.
I've had people, Hispanic people think I'm Hispanic or like some South American. And in the summer I get fairly dark. Um, so people just assume I am, and I'm like, no, I'm literally like all of my heritage is from England.
I've been
And
seeing a lot of that trend, la migra, me la
yeah,
migra, because
yeah,
ice is coming, ice is coming, la
yeah,
migra.
yeah, yeah. So hopefully they don't track me down, I guess, think I am. So shit.
Trump coming for you, son.
No, I think I can just blend into all of them. Asian, Hispanic, whatever you want.
Yeah.
I could blend. I could do it. So, well, I think we're coming. I don't even know how long we've been going for, but
Oh,
probably, I guess almost an hour and a half. Do you have anything you'd like to add on? I mean, let's end off with what is your favorite part about being in the oil field and honestly just being in a blue collar job?
the
Let's end off
camaraderie,
with that.
man. Blue
Yeah.
collar brotherhood, man. Like someone said it was Ryan Wiersma said on my podcast, out in the oil field, there's the laws of man and then there's the laws of society, right? The laws of man always trump, right? In the patch and in blue collar in general, um, if it's minus 40 outside and you break down, you have an army behind you. You know what I mean? They might not you might not get along with everybody, but the boys got your back, you know. And that's what I love, man. The camaraderie of this, man. You know, I came for the money. I stay for the brotherhood.
Think that's probably a lot of people's um experience as well. I'd imagine at least. I mean, I think a lot of people come for the money and end up getting sucked in because they spend all their money and need to keep making more money.
Yeah,
But I think I think that's a general tone of being in the blue collar industries is like the people around you and the
did you
support.
freeze or was that me?
Whatever. It was by either of us. I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah, but I think it's just a general tone of being in a blue collar job is the brotherhood and the camaraderie, like
yeah.
being
I came for the money and I stayed because I owe the government.
Yeah, that too. I came for the money and I stay because I owe the banks or
Yes.
my
Yes.
ex-wife.
Oh,
Uh, well, well, we it's getting late. We
absolutely, brother.
I enjoyed having you on, and yeah, we'll have to do it again. I guess we'll have to get on your podcast and
Hell yeah, man. Come
with
have
that.
some fun. Let's chat it up.
Okay, awesome.
All right, man.
Some
We'll get you
thanks.
on the throne. We'll get you on the throne very soon.
Awesome.
All right,
We'll
buddy.
we'll talk to you
Hey,
later.
bye.